I'm Chuck Duran.
And I'm Stacey J.
Welcome to VO Buzz Weekly, the web entertainment show all about the VO biz.
Yes, and today we are all about teaching. We have two awesome teachers here with us from San Diego, James Alburger and Penny Abshire. We're going to talk to them straight away.
And they are awesome.
They are. But first,
what do you got?
Tip of the week.
So people get in my booth all the time, right? And everybody always has questions about headphones and do I really need to wear these things, and I don't really like wearing these things, and when I take classes they always tell me that I don't need to wear them. Well, let me tell you something. If you ever want to go pro, all right, you're going to want to wear headphones, and I'll tell you why. There's a few reasons. Number one, if you're in a professional vocal booth, not just at home by yourself, but if you're in a pro vocal booth and you're actually voicing a real job, there's going to be people on the other side of the glass, and you won't be able to hear them, and they won't be able to hear, well, they'll be able to hear you.
They have to give you direction.
Exactly. And this is the only way that you'll be able to communicate with them. Otherwise, you won't hear any direction or anything like that. So it's imperative that you wear these. And the other thing is that you don't want the first time that you ever wear headphones to be in a professional situation where they're like, oh my God, and you're needing to get used to them. Get used to them now. Wear them all the time. What a lot of the guys do, including myself, whether you're singing, songs or voiceover, when you put on your head,
girls do this too.
That's right. By guys, I mean, the people that are out there making it happen.
Tell me about it.
All
Keep
right?
going.
So when you put them on, just make sure you have one on and one off. And it's more like a headband up here. And that way, you could totally hear direction, and then you can totally hear yourself.
Yeah, and it's a good look, isn't it?
Yeah, because what happens is sometimes people tend to talk a little bit louder when they have, and you don't want that. You want to know exactly how loud you're being. And this way, you have a little bit of both, right? The best of both worlds. That's what I recommend.
And these are really comfortable ones.
These are awesome. These
are
my Bayer Dynamic DT770s. You can find them everywhere on the internet.
These are super comfortable.
They're really, really comfortable, and
soft.
they block like almost all the noise that comes from them, so that you don't have bleed if you have music going through there or anything like that. These are awesome. Check them out.
Okay. Hey, let's hear from some viewers.
Viewers, what do we got? Viewer emails, my favorite?
Yes.
Sweet.
Okay, so Sandy Schnarr, who we all love,
we love her.
She just people went crazy.
Yes, they did.
When they saw her episodes. So Arbach wrote this on Facebook. She said, this interview is off to a very great start, very informative. You may be aware of this, but I have no intention of pursuing a career in voice acting.
That's too bad, Arbach.
And yet, even from my perspective, this interview is extremely interesting. That's really cool.
That is very cool.
Because her insights are things that are kind of universal in some ways.
This is true, and it's also good to know that some of you out there maybe aren't in the VO business, but still enjoy VO Buzz Weekly for its content and its entertainment value.
And thank you for watching. Okay, so Brian wrote, great interview. The questions asked were really great, and Sandy's answers were both gracious and insightful. I feel like I've just taken a masterclass in talent agent voice actor relationships.
Wow.
Thanks very much, Chuck and Stacey. I've always got time for a little buzz.
And yes, you do. Right on. Thanks for sharing.
And this one just came in. I really want to read this one on my handy-dandy iPhone. This is from Crystal. She says, I'm a voice actor in Toronto, Ontario. And I just found out about your show, and I am in love. A friend sent me a link for the trailer of I Know That Voice, and I was so inspired after watching the trailer that I started Googling the names of a bunch of the actors featured in the doc, and somewhere along the way, I found your site. In the last 24 hours, I have watched all your episodes.
Wow.
Hardcore.
That is hardcore.
Thank you for putting faces and stories to some of the top people in the business, and most of all, thank you both for taking the time to create your show. It's such an amazing VO resource.
Wow.
I'd love to see more women interviewed like Tara and Nancy who voice girls and boys. Keep on bringing the VO buzz, Crystal.
And we will.
And we will bring those girls.
We love you, Crystal, and we love Canadians. Canadians are so cool.
Yeah.
They just go out there and make it happen.
I know.
I love that.
Well, so do Americans.
What else we got?
Traitor.
Are we giving anything away today?
No.
No.
We're giving away awesome information. James and Penny.
Are we going there now?
Yep.
Let's go.
Okay, you guys. guys, we are super cozy on the set of VO Buzz Weekly today.
Yes, we are.
Our guests have come to us from San Diego, and individually they have some very impressive accomplishments and awards, but together they are quite the team. They are the masterminds of the Voice Acting Academy, voiceacting.com, and the International Voice Convention, Voice 2012, that we've talked about in recent shows. We are so happy to talk to them. We have a lot to talk about, and they have to get back on the road before the traffic.
That's right.
So we are so happy to welcome to VO Buzz Weekly James Alburger and Penny Abshire. Hi,
James
guys.
and Penny.
Thank you.
Welcome to VO Buzz
What a
Weekly.
treat. What a treat.
Thank you.
My
Thank you.
goodness
Surprise.
gracious. So it wasn't that hard for them because they have limo drivers. And so,
We took the Concord.
yeah, you know, so it's like, it's not, you know, they have helicopters and things like that.
It's the
so-
Don LaFontaine School of
Exactly. It
Voiceover.
wasn't really that big of a deal. So did you hit much traffic getting over here?
Oh,
It
no,
wasn't-
no.
Not bad at all.
Right? It's simple. They love
it's
Studio
a short
City.
drive. It's a short. Well, I grew up here in LA, so
You did?
yeah, I
That's
grew up
right.
actually in La Cañada.
Wow.
So I know the area pretty well. I've been, you know, through Studio City, Burbank, North Hollywood. I know the area really well.
That's
so it was
fantastic.
easy getting
Very
here.
cool.
Wow. I got to ask you because this is crazy. You went from magician, from magician to audio producer, right? In fact, we were just having a conversation about audio and I was saying something that was completely wrong. And James was like looking like, what the heck is this guy talking about? And then we figured out that I was actually wrong, he was right. But anyways, how'd you go from that to where you are right now?
Well, I started doing magic when I was 12.
Right.
So I was just a little young guy at that time. And I continued doing magic until the early mid-90s.
Right.
And then I kind of retired from the magic scene and focused more on the audio production and sound design and then later voiceover after I left television.
Right.
But the magic got me in front of an audience. It got me on stage. It honed my performing skills.
Yeah.
And I applied a lot of what I learned with that when I was doing sound design and audio production for the NBC station in San Diego.
How did you do that? Can you explain?
Well, by understanding how to work with an audience, that gave me insights in how to produce promos so that I could target the energy level, the attitudes, the moods of what the piece was for maximum effect.
There you
Excellent.
go.
Which is why I got 11 Emmys. So
Exactly, yeah.
So
I was
it
gonna-
works.
I'm
Yeah,
glad
it
you brought
works.
that because I was
All
totally
right?
bringing that
so
up. Yeah.
basically, the moral of the story is that if you're not a magician, forget about it.
no, I don't forget about it.
No, we don't
that's-
forget
But being a magician doesn't hurt.
But
Yeah.
it was that side of my background that I didn't realize this until much later.
Yeah.
But it was that whole performing side of my life history
Sure.
that really complemented what I was doing in television and now in voiceover.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Yeah.
So performing helped you bring out performance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay, Penny,
Yes.
trained concert pianist,
Wow.
estate,
There's the musician in the group.
estate law, and now here you are. So
I know,
give-
it sounds kind of strange,
give
doesn't
us-
it? How do you make that progression?
Yeah.
Well, way back when I thought I was going to go on tour as a concert pianist, that was my dream to do that. And then I fell in love, and that kind of changed the whole thing. So I fell in love, had a family, and at some point along the way, there was that little voice in my head, which I think a lot of us get, that says, you have to be serious now.
Yes.
You have to be responsible and
Get a
serious
real
because
job,
you have
yes.
to get a real job. So I went back
Is
to
that why you got married and had a family? Because you needed to get serious?
No, that was strictly for love.
Okay.
For love.
Because to me, that's pretty serious.
Yeah, and
okay.
it is pretty serious. But then I went back to school and became a paralegal, and did that for years, long time. But you know, every day I'd go to work and I was good at my job. It was a good job. I had a beautiful office in La Jolla, right by the ocean. I mean, you couldn't ask for better, right? And I hated every day because for a creative person, that's just kind of a slow death, is to go
Yeah.
someplace and work in a cubicle and do the same thing
Oh, my
every day.
goodness, yes.
So I had kind of resigned myself to that fact because it was good retirement and it paid well. You know, I had convinced myself that's where I needed to be. And a friend of mine said, let's go take that class that Alburger guy teaches for the Learning Annex, you know, how to make money in voiceovers. Let's go take that class. I said, no, I don't want to do that. And he said, oh, come on, let's just go try. I don't want to do that. He had to practically push me through the door.
Wow.
And after that little 3-hour class with Jim, and he got me on mic and I got to perform, and having had a lot of performance background both in theater and in music,
Yeah.
I mean, it just lit me up. I left that room knowing that's what I do the rest of my life. And
Yeah.
at that point, I was 47.
Wow.
So
that's cool.
you know, I had this decision to make. You know, was I going to look back in 10 years and say, gosh, I wish I'd done that, or am I going to look back and say, gosh, I'm glad I did that?
Yeah.
So that's the decision I made. And when I went home to tell my husband, who is a very conservative banker, oh, by the way, honey, I'm going to quit being a paralegal now and be an actress, and he kind of went, huh.
Yeah.
That's a head twister.
Yeah, that's a head
Definitely.
twister. But he was okay with it, and it's been great ever since.
But that's really inspiring, because we do have viewers out there that have written to us and said, is it ever too late to start in voiceover?
And it's never too late.
So that's wonderful. You've really, I'm sure, helped a lot of people just from that.
Absolutely. Living proof. So how long have you guys been teaching now?
I started when I was still with the NBC station in San Diego. I started teaching the Learning Annex workshops.
Okay.
And that was in 1997.
97.
Right, 97.
Okay.
And then I left the station in 98. So when I left, I started teaching, well, actually it was late 97. From the Learning Annex classes, I started getting a lot of demand for people who wanted more in the way of a workshop. So I organized the original workshops and started teaching those in early 98.
Okay.
And then left the station late 98 and went into a larger schedule of the workshops.
Okay.
And it was in December of 98 was when Penny took the first 8-week workshop that
Actually, it was October, but...
Not according to
I
my
was
records.
wrong
No,
once.
it was
He's
not.
wrong
It's
now.
October.
It's October.
Guys never
Okay, it's
win.
October.
Do not
October.
start
I'll
with
say
me, you
October.
will not win. Okay.
Exactly. So let me ask you this then. So you've been teaching for a long time, and then the
Yes.
two of you have still been doing teaching as well together for a while now too.
Right.
What do you think? How do you describe your teaching style? Because I know a lot of different teachers out there, and they all have their own little philosophy. What do you think makes yours special? What's your teaching style?
Two things.
Two things.
First thing is that we're a team. So when we are teaching a workshop, I'm a very technically oriented type of person. So I'm more on the technique, the process, how to work with a script and do the interpretation, go through what we have our 7 core elements, which is the second thing that we do. And Penny is more of, you can look at it as, like a football broadcast.
Yeah.
We've got the color and the play-by-play.
He's the play-by-play, I'm the color.
She's the color.
you go.
So she gives you the female perspective. And there are two distinctly different approaches to working with the same piece of copy. And what it does is it gives our students an opportunity to really get different perspectives at the same time.
Can you give us just a little example of how you guys balance that, of how you would do that? Like maybe to them, like we teach them a little something that you think could help right off the bat?
Usually that balance comes in the context of when we're coaching somebody on a script.
Okay.
So that would be a little tricky right here without doing
Speaking
that.
of tricks. No.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get to that. But really what we do is the second part of what makes us unique is that since the early days of when I was teaching workshops and starting the first edition of my book, The Art of Voice Acting.
Which we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Since then, since those first early workshops, I started developing what have become the 7 core elements of a performance. That's something that makes us unique. Nobody else is teaching that way or that kind of a process for performing in voiceover.
So between the two of you, you're really covering the full gamut of what a student needs to experience.
Well, that's important because people don't all learn in the same way. True. Some people will really be able to understand the technical way that it's being described, and others people really need to have it broken down. So quite often he'll do something very technical and I say, which means, and then I tell him a story or give him an example. So it's just a nice way to be able to reach both ways of learning.
Right.
It works really well.
Wow.
So what do you guys think in the VO business today? What do you think a voice actor has to do in order to really be competitive today?
In order to be competitive? Well, first of all, they have to have a real passion for what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Because it is a competitive industry, as most of them are, if you don't really have that in your heart, if you don't really have the passion, you will never succeed. Because the first roadblock that you come up against, you'll stop.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, I would say passion for what you're doing is number one. There are many other things, but that would be my number one thing.
Well, and skill sets would be another, because you cannot just simply be a good voice actor.
Right.
it goes around on the internet all the time. It's not about the voice. It's about what you do with the voice, and that's your acting ability. If you don't know how to act and you can't create alternate personalities and attitudes and behaviors and all the things that go along with that, you're nothing much more than a reader.
That's right.
And readers don't make it in today's world of voiceover.
Nope.
30 years ago, maybe, but not today. It's a whole different ballgame.
It is.
Yeah.
So the skill sets of the performing and acting skills is critical, and you've got to hone those skills and be at the top of your game. And along with that, in the skill sets department are your business skills, because in today's world, we're working from our own home studios. We're entrepreneurs. We are the sole proprietor of our business. And if you don't know how to run a business efficiently and effectively, and from a standpoint of marketing and branding and keeping your image and negotiating when it comes to negotiating your talent fees as well as other things, again, you're not going to go as far as you might.
Okay.
So those are two really important skill sets to have.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And speaking of social media and marketing, how important and maybe and what role does that play in somebody's success in the voiceover
And
business?
Penny, you have a book that you've written, Demo
So maybe
and the
you would
Magic
be-
of Marketing.
Demo and marketing magic, right? About just demos and marketing. But when I wrote that book, which has been, gosh, that was in 2007, social media had not really taken off. I mean, when you think back to it, that's really been pretty recent that it's just gone crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So a lot of things have changed since I wrote that. But as far as social media is concerned, I think it's critical now. We have to have it. If it's not something that people out there, if you're not comfortable with social media, get comfortable, because it's not going away.
Right.
There is so much marketing and networking that is done with social media now that it's becoming very, very important for any business.
And for somebody who it's so maybe overwhelming too. I've got to have a website. I've got to have. What is maybe a couple tips just for someone to get started in the social media area that isn't maybe going to be? James is going, it's not possible.
Well, but I do just want to say one thing, and that is that you can only do one thing at a time. I think what keeps people from trying, you know, they get into this and they think, oh, it's just so overwhelming because there's all these things I have to do. You can only do one thing at a time, so just do one thing at a time.
Yeah, it starts with one step.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll never get to the end of the road without taking that first step.
Right.
Sometimes the first step is taking a workshop. Sometimes it's simply reading a book. Sometimes it's watching something like VioBuzz Weekly. Sometimes it's actually joining one of the online audition sites and actually submitting. We know a lot of
There's
people.
the trick.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the trick.
You can join, but
you
you
never know.
actually
You have to submit the auditions if you're going to get
At the
anywhere.
very worst, you're going to get a lot of experience.
That's absolutely. And what we tell our students is for the online sites like voices.com, which by the way is
of your
the
sponsors,
sponsor of Voice 2012 this year. What we suggest is when you subscribe to their service, consider it a prepaid year of training.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to hone your skills and become really, really good at the submission process.
And editing.
And editing, because you'll hone your recording skills as well.
Yep.
And the whole negotiating when you get the calls for those gigs. So there's so many facets of that that are way beyond just that series of auditions that comes into your email box every day.
Well, and also for people who don't have representation yet, it's a way for them to get started in the business and have some empowerment that they're actually doing something instead
a
of
first step.
waiting. Yeah.
Well, and speaking of that first step too, I talk to people about the treadmill syndrome, and I don't know if you know what that is. But probably all of us out there at some point or another have bought the treadmill or the exercise machine, you know, something, and it sits in the corner of our room and collects dust.
And laundry.
Right? And laundry.
Yes, yes.
So what we see happening sometimes with voiceover artists is that they will go out and buy all their recording equipment. They will go out and, you know, spend a lot of money on a microphone. They'll join voices.com. They'll do Voice 123. They'll be on all these sites, and yet they never send in an audition.
Right.
So it's just like having that treadmill in the corner. You're not going to lose any weight unless you use it.
Absolutely.
So, but it's, well, if I have all this equipment, then I'm
Then I'm a
successful,
professional.
right?
Yeah.
Not so much, no.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a warning, is that you don't have to spend a lot on equipment, number one. You do have to have it, but be reasonable about that and make sure that, yes, you have the right equipment, but you've also got to have that push, that drive to keep doing it, to
Yeah.
keep putting yourself out there
Yeah.
every day.
Are there any, for someone who maybe doesn't have a huge budget to start a home recording studio, are there any particular microphones or things that you recommend?
Well, the whole home studio, which is one of the things that is not really well known about me, is that I've designed 2 television recording audio control rooms.
Oh, only 2, James?
Only 2, plus a television remote audio track.
Too bad he's not that talented.
Was this
Yeah.
before or after your 11 Emmys?
It was around that same time.
Yeah, it's
frame.
around that same time. Okay.
But I've had a home studio since I was
Overachiever.
12.
yeah.
As I was doing audio production at home with turntables and reel-to-reel tape recorders when
He
I
was
was
the
about
first
13.
DJ ever.
No, I wasn't. Don't go back that far.
My name is James, and I was getting down. Yeah.
But the thing with the home studios is the technology has advanced so far and so quickly,
Yes.
and the prices have just plummeted.
Yeah.
So if you've got a decent computer, you can put together all the essential equipment for a home studio for under $300.
Yep.
It doesn't take a lot of money. Now, the critical factor in the home studio is your room acoustics. How quiet, how dead is the room, how clean is your recorded sound? Because the expectation from the producers is that you will be able to deliver the quality of audio that they would be able to get if they go to a $150 an hour big box recording studio.
Broadcast quality.
That you want broadcast quality, which means no dogs barking, no birds chirping, no kids screaming in the background, no air conditioning rumble, no garbage trucks driving by, no lawn
No mother
blowers.
yelling in the background.
No.
Why don't you take out the trash?
None of that stuff.
None of that stuff.
It's got to be pristine in quality.
Right.
And there are ways of doing that relatively inexpensive. You can't do it within that $300 price range for the equipment. It might
But
take
if you
you.
have a budget, you need to really
you,
pick
you need to look at ways of doing it, and there are
what you're spending
options.
your money on.
Many options.
Many
Choose
options.
wisely.
We could do a whole other episode
Oh, yeah.
on options.
Yes.
Well, we do a
We
whole
will.
workshop on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
there's so many options and ways of doing it on the cheap.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh,
if
absolutely.
you've got a walk-in closet that's got a lot of clothes in it,
There you
you've
go.
got.
Yeah.
My first
Yeah.
booth was a walk-in closet.
Yeah.
I was like, but what I did was I had 2 closets. So I'm like, I have 2 vocal
Is that your
booths.
commercial, your commercial closet and
So
your
I took
animation
all the
box?
clothes out of one closet, put it in the other closet, and turned one closet. I took the door off, bought another door because I didn't want to destroy the door. Bought another door, put glass on both sides of
there
the
you go.
door so that I can see clients and ran AC duct and stuffed it with foam in there so you couldn't hear anything.
Right.
And it was perfect. It was like so good.
Yeah.
Of course, when I moved, I had to leave it.
But, oh well.
But they had now a booth closet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What every
This is
person
good.
needs.
And this really spiffy door with glass.
Yeah.
So it's-
So let's talk books. Okay.
Okay.
You are both
do
published authors. Congratulations.
Published authors.
Okay, so James so graciously, this is a very critically acclaimed book, you guys. If you haven't had a chance to pick it up, where's the best place people can get this?
Any place.
Any
It's
place.
pretty much everywhere.
It's
Okay,
on
great.
Amazon.
Yeah,
It's in
Amazon,
all of the
Amazon.
bookstores.
Okay, great.
You can actually get autographed copies through voiceacting.com.
Wonderful.
So
We love
And
the autograph one.
we hear that if you actually get one that's autographed, you'll learn faster.
that's
You're
I'm
just
guaranteed a book.
I heard that. I think I read that on Facebook or something.
I think so.
Yeah.
The Art of Voice Acting, and I want to read the other ones too. You also have the Voice Actor's Guide to Professional Home Recording.
Yes. That's an ebook.
Yes.
That's an ebook.
Good.
So
Love
instant
ebooks.
gratification on that
A
one.
ton of links
ebooks.
in it,
Okay.
which I have to update. It's links come and go, and I have to go through
Right.
that and
Yeah.
Right.
update
Yeah,
it. I'll have
that's
to do that
ever
after the
evolving,
convention.
which is
Yes.
the blessing and the curse of that, I'm sure.
Yes.
And then you have a little pocket book
Let me fix your little
about.
hair there.
Thank you, pal.
There you go.
About how to get jobs for the voices in my head.
Right.
So
And that How to Get Jobs book is actually what was the original workshop notes or for the Learning Annex class I used to teach.
Oh, interesting. What is kind of the crux of this book, and why is it such an essential tool for a voice actor to have?
One of the things that, well, let me just kind of back up a little bit
Sure.
and give a really short history of how that book happened.
Okay.
When I started teaching the Learning Annex classes in 1997, I wanted to do notes for the class. Those notes took on a life of their own. I went to a showbiz expo here in LA, and I'm wandering the floor, and I come across this large booth of books. And I figured, hey, I'm writing a book. I need to talk to these people. So I tried to find their publisher, who was on the floor someplace, but we never connected. About a week after the show was over, I'm in my control room at the TV station, and the phone rings, and it's the publisher of Focal Press, who's my publisher now, and saying, yes, we're interested in talking to you about your book on voiceover. We're expanding our performing side, and we wanted to talk. So they said, can you send us 4 chapters? By that time, I had 4 chapters roughed out, so I sent those off, and they liked it, and they said, yes, you have an April 30th deadline for November publication. And this is in January. And I'm thinking, okay, I can do that.
Taxes? Oh my gosh.
I can do that. So basically the first edition, I put that together. It was a fairly short, 185 pages, about half as thick as the new edition.
Right.
And that came out, and it was instantly a hit. I mean, it immediately got critically acclaimed, and I said, well, that's really nice. People like my book. Well, what I have come to find out, and this is from looking at the reviews on Amazon.com and a variety of other places, is that the approach that I took when writing Art of Voice Acting is that I wrote it from the perspective of me as both a performer and a producer and an engineer, because I cover all sides of the microphone. Most of the other books on voiceover have come from strictly the performer's perspective, and a lot of those other books are on how I did it. This is what I did to break into voiceover, to get the gigs, to do whatever it is. So my book was more of a textbook. This is the textbook. In fact, there's at least a dozen universities that are using it as a college or university theatrical textbook for a voiceover performance. And that, I think, is one of the things that really makes a difference. Plus, every edition, this is the 4th edition, every edition so far, I update all the scripts. So there are 4 chapters that cover key areas of voiceover: single voice, dialogue, character work, and long form narration. So those 4 key areas are covered with unique scripts in every edition. Plus, at the back of the book, there's a chapter which I call Tricks of the Trade. And that chapter is all contributions from top professionals in the industry.
Very nice.
Wonderful.
So
and then there's also an audio CD.
And there's an audio CD.
And what is on that?
On the audio CD, there are a variety of exercises that I talk about in the book, and I give the actual exercises or examples of those on the CD. Also, there's the actual audio for all of the scripts that are in the book. So you've got the script, so you can hear you can work on it and see what you do, and then you can listen to how it was actually done.
And when you look in the 4th edition in the animation section, you'll see all these little caricatures. My son did those.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Shout out to Tim Abshire.
Hey, Tim! Right on, buddy. You rock.
Talented Tim.
That's so cool.
Love it.
That's really cool. And one of the greatest things about this book is that if you get it with the autograph, if there's any part of the book that you don't understand, you can just call James.
Call us.
Well,
and he will explain it to you.
Well, you could go to voiceacting.com and reach out to
No,
you
I'm
guys.
kidding, but I was going to say, you know, this thing is, I mean, there's a lot of information in here that you can't really get anywhere else.
Right.
So this is a big recommend.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there's so much in there that I've gleaned from 25 years in television. Because during my entire TV and television, I was an audio producer. I was the senior audio person for that NBC station. And I was working with voice talent every single day, either recording them, editing them, directing them, doing something with them. But I was the engineer.
Right, and I can tell you too, I mean, Jim was my first teacher in that little 3-hour class, right? But then I just kept taking classes from him. So he has been my mentor. He's also my best friend and partner. But during that time, I mean, the man is an incredible teacher. And I'll just say that to all of you out there. We'll make this public. I think he's an incredible teacher.
Well, you guys are a wonderful
is.
team. I mean, you can see that, and between the two of you, every area is covered. I mean, you're a complete package. So.
But see, and I'm kind of mom. If you know Bob Bergen, Bob Bergen calls me the mom of VO because that's what I do. And I'm perfectly fine with that distinction because I know I'm older, and so I can take the little fledglings, you know, that come out that are so much want to do this. I may never have, you know, this huge voiceover career, but I can help them get to that career, and it's wonderful for me. So I told Jim the other day I really need to put out a little placard by my office that says counseling, because a lot of what I do is that.
Absolutely.
And I was, you know, I was cheerleader in high school, and once you're a cheerleader, you're always a cheerleader. So
right.
we just tell
Fingers.
So all they have to do is come, just give me a call, and I'll help them. I'll pump them up.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
But
just-
as a creative person, I mean, you're putting a piece of yourself and everything.
big
So I
piece.
mean, when you get rejected, when you get accepted, I mean, there's a whole layer of emotion that goes
You've
with
got
that.
to. That's another thing as a performer that you have to learn to develop is the tools to deal with rejection, because
Yeah.
it's always going to be there. One of the things that I started here not recently, it's been several years now, but I have a group on Voiceover Universe as well as on Facebook, but it's Positive Thinkers Unite.
Ah, I love that.
That is on
Positive
VU.
Thinkers Unite.
Yeah, it's 1,300 members, I think, on VU.
She's the
and then-
largest group
on
on
it.
VoiceOver Universe.
because people want to have that
that-
positive reinforcement.
Is that facebook.com/?
Right,
Positive
groups.
Thinkers
It's
Unite?
groups.
Okay.
Yeah. If you just type in if you just type in Positive Thinkers, you'll come up with it. But
Okay, cool.
it's just a place where people can go and help.
Yeah.
If they have a great success they want to share, that's the place to do it. If they're really discouraged, they come there, and it's just amazing the
Yeah.
people that'll jump in and offer them encouragement. So we all need that, which is one of the
Absolutely.
reasons why we ended up doing our voice convention.
Yeah. Well, that's all the time we have for today, folks. Be sure and tune in next week for part 2 of the James and Penny interview. It's going to be awesome.
Yes, it is. And send us your questions and comments. Plus, find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest at VO Buzz Weekly. You guys take care until next time, and just remember,
You always have time for a little buzz.